sometimes a vocalist will know, 60 techniques. One thing that I sometimes, all right, I'm gonna have a little bit I don't know if I should have this moment of honesty. I don't know, but I'm going to. What's up, ya metal kids, metalhead, metal people, metal folks? I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm going to keep that intro because I'm too lazy to do it again. Mark with Kardavox Academy here, and today we're talking about Ingested Shadows in Time. Now, there are a couple reasons we're doing this song. Number one, I don't know if any of you know this, but Ingested is one of my favorite band names of all time. I haven't listened to a ton of Ingested. I do like the songs that I've heard, but there is something about the band name Ingested that it's like sludgy and gross, but also like kind of refined. Like I ingested my enemy. It's like, oh, you're one of those lawful evil villains that's scary because they've got a system. You know what I mean? I feel like Hannibal Lecter would say ingested versus like eaten. Right. But if you're new to the channel, my name is Mark. I am a metal vocalist. I'm in a band called Kardashev, who were actually label mates with Ingested. We released an album back in June. Doesn't sound a lot like Ingested. Maybe you like it. Maybe you won't. I don't know. I am also a vocal coach. I give the occasional clean singing lesson here and there because I do that a lot in our own music. But I specialize mostly in a lot of gurgly, sludgy metal sounds. So, helping people go like all those types of things. That's what I do for a living. I teach those types of lessons. So throughout this video, if you're interested in lessons, you can check the description below, see the email, toss us a request, and we'll tell you about it. If you like the content, be sure to like, share, and subscribe. Check us out on Patreon. Our Discord community is ever growing and very cool. A lot of lovable folks who I've come to know in that Discord community. So come hang out, sit in one of our listening parties. Tell me why my opinion of music is terrible and wrong, and I'm stupid. I don't know. Anyways, let's check out Ingested Shadows in Time. I've already got the video queued up, and I love the big arms. It always reminds me of Eddie Izzard talking about the Last Supper painting with the big arms. If you haven't seen it, look it up. Ingested Shadows in Time. Here we go. Okay, cool. So, it was in the 30 seconds, not the 40 seconds. So this is a really, really good, really loose, really relaxed false chord vocal. There's a little bit of activation that's allowing it to that's allowing him to not run out of breath too quickly. But, we have like our baseline false chord sound. Hey, and then that's it. That's like, if you want to do false chord, that's all you need. You don't actually have to create any activation in the throat or the back of the mouth. You can, to slightly compress the sound, you can give it kind of you can do that, and that'll allow you to hold on to the scream a little longer. But for the activation of the false chords, it's not necessary. False chord is a great style for anybody who's brand new to metal vocals to learn, because it really is good at teaching you the relationship between relaxation and distortion. Fry is also a great way to learn that. And if you want to learn Fry, do that. You don't have to start false chord. But it is a great way to do it, because if you can grunt, if you can go like, ugh, I got punched in the gut, or ugh, what a hard day at work, you can go, and then eventually, right, down the road. So he's got an excellent technique as far as relaxation is concerned. Love that. It sounded like there was like a high Fry tone in the back. We'll keep listening, and I'll pay attention to that. I also love the way that he's sort of like closing in over the front of his words. He not to like a puffy degree like you hear in deathcore. They have a lot, like in a lot of deathcore, you'll hear like sounds going on, but he's like almost, I'm gonna do it, and you're all gonna get mad at me. Ingesting the Oh. Like he's chewing. It's like he's eating the scream. It sounds really cool. Let's keep going. Yeah, that's neat. That's neat. I like that. I like that a lot. That's a really great place for us to talk about breath. Listen to, now I don't hear any like layers. I don't have like the best ear for this sort of stuff, but oftentimes I can pick it out. I don't hear any multiple takes being like stitched together and crossfaded or anything to sort of make them sound like he's doing. It sounds like he did this phrase in one breath. Let's check it out. So that's it. That's actually pretty good. False chord, as many of you already know, is an inherently breathy vocal technique, right? It's gonna be breathier than fry. And the reason for that is that a fry technique at its base level involves medial tension, light. You don't have to squeeze too hard. Light. In fact, I'm not gonna say medial tension. I'm gonna say medial activation. It's this closure of the vocal folds over the airway, right? And we're taking, this low rumbly sound, like the actual fry register, that grudge sound, and we're placing it a little bit higher, and we're adding a little bit of activation, so it turns into that more TV static sound. As a result, the air is held back a little bit, right? That just makes sense, right? Whereas with false chord, we have a much more open sound. Our vocal folds are not touching. They are not closing over the airway. Therefore, our throat is open. We got a big tube that the air is coming through. So what we have to do is we have to either just rely on the airflow to sort of suck the tissues in, right? And there's a video where you can actually see a little bit of that like going on. It's called Metal Vocalists Are Just Big Babies. I've mentioned it before. You can look it up. And I shouldn't say or, I should say then, later on, we can add a little bit of that rumble, that arytenoidal. A lot of people mistake that for fry. It is definitely not fry. My vocal folds are not touching. In fact, my vocal folds can touch independent of that sound. And that sort of allows us to start narrowing that airstream a little bit more. Now, here's something that's really important when we talk about compression. I don't actually really love the term compression. It's there. We use it. I get it. When in Rome, you sometimes have to speak as the Romans do. But I don't like the idea of compression because it sounds so much like this excess of pressure. I think it's better for us to think about vocal compression. I had a video on it, but I took it down because I don't know. I didn't like the way I was talking about it years down the road. I looked back and I was like, I could have talked about this a lot better. But I think it's more valuable to think about it as like an efficient activation of airflow or an efficient management of airflow. That's why we call it breath management. We don't call the management of airflow breath pressure, right? Although you can measure breath pressure, that's a thing. We call it breath management, breath support, because these are very cooperative ideas. We want to think of each part of our voice as working together as a cohesive whole. That's a really important thing. In fact, usually when a student will go from struggling with a vocal to getting a vocal, it's because in their mind, they're able to make the switch from seeing them fighting to force something to happen and allowing something to happen. So I know I got kind of on a tangent there, but that's what I do. But if I take this, and I'm already out, right? And I'm holding my ribs out. I'm engaging the abs. I'm doing everything right. It's just breathy. But if I add a little bit of that squeeze, right? I can hold it for a lot longer, and you can tell that exiting that scream was quite comfortable because there's not an excess of tension in my throat. Let's keep going. This guy's got kind of like a static face going on. I don't know what that's about, but I hope you're okay, buddy. Anyways, here we go. Oh! Those are solid highs. So one thing that we're hearing here is a really good command of the fundamentals, right? We're not hearing a lot of like some of the more, let me think of how to say this. We're not hearing a lot of the excess bells and whistles that we do sometimes hear with vocalists. Sometimes a vocalist will know, 60 techniques. One thing that I sometimes, all right, I'm going to have a little bit more, I don't know if I should have this moment of honesty. I don't know, but I'm going to. Sometimes when people say to me like, oh, this vocalist is so good, he has so many techniques. Internally, I'm like, because it's like, that's cool. That's a really cool thing. It is awesome to be very versatile and to be able to do like a million different things. But I always wonder, like, are they on time though? Do they, if they were to do a fundamental scream, could they do it? What is their relationship with a lot of those screams? Do they know how to hold back? Maybe use them as seasoning versus the main dish? These are questions that I always ask. So for me, it's like remember back in the day, I say back in the day, like 4 years ago, every video game, they were like trying to make it sound special because it was open world. And it's like, so what? Like, is it a good game? You can tell me it's open world, but is it a good game? So sometimes when people say, oh, this vocalist has a bajillion techniques, I'm like, but are they good? You know what I mean? Like, are they going to supplement the music, or are they just going to be stomping all over top of it? And honestly, sometimes I find myself preferring to listen to vocals like this, where these are some very baseline fundamentals, but there is a very strong cohesion with the song that we're hearing. And then, like one thing we heard in the back, I kind of did this, was there was this gritty belt, and it was in the back as sort of a texture and a flavor. And then when I heard it, because he hadn't been like pounding me in the side of the head with everything he knows in the first 30 seconds, when it did show up, it was kind of like this pleasant surprise, right? Now that's just an opinion piece. That's like a little hot take of mine. Nobody's wrong if you prefer vocals who like it's 10 different techniques every 5 seconds. You're not wrong for liking that. I love that sometimes. Like I get down with that every once in a while, but I think a broader scope sometimes is necessary. Now let's talk about those high vocals. So I think I mentioned it earlier in this video, but I filmed a couple videos today, so maybe they're blurring together in my head. But that high vocal, that's such a wonderful high vocal to do, because it's, once you get it, it is so easy. Essentially, what we're doing is we're taking a hey, and we're just lifting the place where it's held. So that's a false chord sound. Hey, ha, ha. What if I lift it? Ha, ha. If I take my false chord and switch it, right? It's in my chest voice. It's coming from the same space as my speaking voice. Hey, ha, hey, ha, hey, ha, even when I do that, it's coming from the same place as my speaking voice, right? What if I, hey, ha, hey, ha, hey, ha, hey, ha, hey? You can hear it wanting to switch, right? Hey, ha, hey. Give it the air breath support it needs. Right? And it's a very, very easy high to do once you get it. And it requires very little work in the throat. This guy, he seems to have, and I don't know him, so this is a little bit of speculation, but he seems to base a lot of his technique on what allows me to feel most relaxed, and I got a lot of respect for that. And that's such a cool high vocal to do as well, because you can do like all sorts of cool things. You can kind of tilt your right after my whole technique thing, but bear with me. You can kind of tilt your tongue up, right? You can let your tongue and your soft palate kind of touch, so it sounds like really, really wet. Just maybe use them as seasoning. I don't know. Here we go. That's exactly what I'm talking about. I haven't heard that scream yet in this song. He hasn't used it. So when it popped out, it was just like this really breathy. Let's hear that again. Oh, that was exciting. Let's hear that again. Very breathy and a little rattly. I think it's kind of around there. I'm not quite hitting it. Might be something like that. That's not a placement I would want to use a lot personally. It's a little tickly. And I'm always a little hesitant of clacky feelings in my actual larynx, like clacky feelings in the larynx. He might not feel it that way because, again, this is a sound he probably uses all the time, and I'm speculating. But let me hear that one more time. Sorry, Ludo. Ludo's our editor. Sorry. Like, I feel like I hear that note underneath it. But there's something that's pulled back. I'm not sure if that's like the way that it's mixed. Yeah, you can hear that. That's a little scratchy, so I'm going to stop playing around with it. But yeah, there's something he's doing that. Oh, I'm going to try one more thing. Maybe if I point it upwards. Up, breathy, engage distortion. Nah, still not right. It sounds sick, though. Let's keep going. Another nice thing about his vocals, and I'm going to keep this brief because I know I've talked a lot. Another nice thing about his vocals is it lets him be fairly articulate. Now, anybody who knows or has had this conversation with me before is like, you know, if they were to say, Mark, how important is articulation? I would say, I don't know. What are you trying to do? Like, I feel like articulation is kind of like one of those topics that, like, if you mention it, somebody's going to like Kool-Aid man through the wall and like have an opinion that they just have to say. It's like hot sauce. If you're like, I love hot sauce, somebody's going to be like, but does it have flavor? Or like if you talk about having to wake up early in the morning, like, oh, I woke up at 5. They're like, you think that's early? Well, I woke up at 3. Can I have everybody's approval, please? I'm very self-conscious. You know what I mean? It kind of has that vibe. So sometimes when somebody's talking about a vocalist and somebody's like, but can you understand what they're saying? I'm like, maybe that's not the point. Maybe that's not the message they're trying to convey. Maybe they want to sound dark and deep and sludgy and have the lyrics kind of hidden behind the primal sound of their vocals. That's how there are a lot of hot takes in this video. I don't normally make my hot takes public because people always get angry. But there are a lot of hot takes in this video. Anyway, he, however, has a nice balance of being able to be articulate and being able to be sludgy. Now that is something that I do feel. I think that it's important that you can be articulate when you need to, but you can also be sludgy and gross when you need to. Or I guess I should say want to. And a lot of that's just going to come from airflow and relaxation, right? I know I talk about that a lot, but that's because that's so important for any vocal style that we're doing. Good airflow, relaxation, that's the key to a lot. That's the key to a lot. You know what I mean? And that'll allow us to do things like, you know, that sentence was, I could say this right here, or yeah, I could say this right here, right? Same technique delivered in different ways. And I like that. That sounded like he's doing a good job. Sounds like we got the guitar solo coming up, so that's a good time to talk. That sounds really rude. That's like I'm saying, let's talk over the guitar solo. No, we're gonna listen to it. We're gonna give it some time. Another cool thing that he did there, that I enjoyed, that I liked, was moving up from a high to a low. What's the key to that? airflow and relaxation. Right? It's airflow and relaxation, but also optimal shape of your vocal tract, right? Here's a good example. If I take like a really loose false chord, like a really loose false chord, and I try to lift into a high, but I'm going to keep my mouth and my vocal tract that shape, which is that shape is this. You can't really show someone a vocal tract shape because they can't really see it. So you have to, I usually, not just me, a lot of people do this, represent it with a clean tone. So the shape is what if I try to lift that? It's dead. It's dead. What is a good optimal shape for a high? Well, I showed you earlier. So what if I switch them? What if I practice? Hey, here's a thought. What if I practice metal vocals by doing cleans? Right? And I take this and I practice that transition. Right? That's a really good way to go about it, is learn how to transition between those shapes in your clean voice, and stay relaxed as well. It's kind of all I have to say about that. But let's keep going. It looks like the song's almost done anyway, so let's just finish it out. Oh, that's cool. Nice. Good use of vocal layers there too. Got to give the videographer and the editor and all that some credit. It's important. All right. So that was Ingested. Pretty good. Pretty dope. Pretty cool. I liked it. Yeah. Great use of fundamentals. Great control. Yeah. Overall, very solid song. Very, very good song. I don't really have anything to reiterate because I kind of already said it throughout the video. That was a very chatty video. 1,000 Carta points to all of you who stayed. But beyond that, good job. Good job to the folks in Ingested. Appreciate your hard work. Like, share, subscribe. Many thanks. Much love. I'm out.